the sun shines bright and the seeds are sown. Portugal, it's the place to be. Join the community, come and see. Expats Portugal.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, birthday wishes to Sarah, our special guest this evening, as we learn how to save thousands with forward contracts in foreign money exchange with Spartan FX. And Sarah, of course. Parabéns a você, Sarah. It was your birthday a few days ago. You're second in Portugal. How's it been?
Oh, very good, very good. We had this conversation this week. The Portuguese happy birthday. It's lovely.
Mm,
It's
yes.
really special. The words are very kind and affectionate. It's very sort of, it's not just happy birthday like we would sing in the UK and I think probably America, but it's very much kind wishes and talking about, good wishes for the year ahead, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
And health and happiness,
Mm.
absolutely. And there's clapping, and it gets faster, and there's more verses, so it's great in Portuguese, and a really good thing to learn actually, because you will invariably find yourself here in Portugal at a party, and it's nice to be able to sing along. Birthday wishes coming along from Debbie, from David, and La Ronda. Feliz aniversario. Okay, let's spread some of that birthday cheer and find out how to save money, save thousands, in fact. We're talking about locking in exchange rates and avoiding nasty surprises tonight, protecting your income and pensions from market volatility, which is quite an issue at the moment. Save thousands on property purchases and regular transfers with Spartan FX. Flexible options for both large lump sums and smaller recurring payments, and learn the strategies the banks won't tell you about. Why? Well, we know why they won't tell you about them. But let's get cracking then. Sarah from Spartan Effects, maybe a little bit about yourself, a bit of background. You say it's your second birthday here. You live in Portugal, don't you? So this is a British company, but you're here working in Portugal, right, Sarah?
Absolutely. So I started with Spartan FX in 2020. And the company started in 2018. But like myself and many of the directors, we've been in the business 15, 20 years. In fact, next year I'll be in the FX foreign exchange industry for about 20 years. So we have a lot
Oh,
of experience.
yeah.
And all worked really for sort of larger firms. The reason sort of Spartan FX came about was really to kind of get back to offering that customer service to customers, like almost a bespoke service. That's where we see there's sort of a gap in the market. Yes, obviously there's sort of online providers and we're talking about faster payments and the technology, but that's still there. But again, a lot of clients, they're either doing large sums of money, they've never done this before. It can be quite daunting, filling in IBAN numbers. It's a long number. If you make a mistake and it goes to the wrong account, where's your money? People can feel quite anxious.
Mm.
And if there's any issues, just having someone on the end of the phone is very beneficial. A lot of our dealers get messages from clients saying that, they feel like they're part of the Spartan FX family and, they couldn't have done it. And it's just offering that support. I know myself that moving country is such a big, it's one of the biggest things you'll do in your
Upheaval, isn't it?
life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of things to think about. And this is one thing that you do need to think about, but it's often at the bottom of the list. People don't think about it, or you've got so much to think about. If we can take something off your plate, then that's the main thing, because the exchange rates are moving all the time. It is something you need to think about, but you can't be watching it all the time. That's where we come in, basically.
Yep. All about the first name terms and personal service, and that's why you've got the platinum FIFO award that we can see on your screen there. David saying, yeah, it was so scary the first time. Tell us a bit more about your experience, David, and how Spartan FX were able to calm your nerves transferring the large amounts of money, which is what we're talking about tonight. So first question then, Sarah, if I may, what is a forward contract in the context of foreign exchange? Let's get the birthday party started with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, the main way most people transfer money, not to get too technical, but in our world, we call it a spot contract, which is buying currency as and when you need it. And that's what most people will do. But we also have what we call a forward contract. And this allows you to, as you said, lock, secure, however you want to phrase it, an exchange rate for a future payment. So for example, you can lock the rate today for a future payment up to 12 months, 2 years in advance. So the benefits of that, as we'll get into, is that you may have a deadline, say it's property, for example. Maybe you're doing the golden visa, you're given a deadline by when you need to make a payment, and then obviously we can lock the rate because no one knows what it's going to be in 6, 8, 12 weeks time when you complete, for example, for a property. But also we'll go into the other reason to talk about this more is that, yes, we focus initially on larger transfers, which is traditionally where a lot of people have seen the benefit, because obviously on larger sums, a small rate movement makes such a big difference. I mean, really, since the beginning of the year, the types of movements we've seen on selling US dollars and buying euros on 500,000 euros, it's a difference of, we're talking about 50, 60,000 US dollars. So it's a huge difference. So this is kind of what we're trying to help manage. But
Yeah.
also, we can't forget the regular payments, pensions, mortgage payments, salary, something you're doing on a regular basis. Yes, they're smaller amounts, but over 12 years or 2 years, that's a much larger sum. And actually, we can fix the rate for the whole amount, and then you can draw, we can send it out each month. So again, it's all about managing your budget. You know where you're at, you know how much it's going to cost you. And again, helping managing the volatility that we're seeing at the moment.
Very good. Okay, so basically it's taking some of the randomness out and picking a rate that you feel comfortable with, and then paying that forward in a way.
Yeah, essentially.
Yes.
I mean, there's a couple of things that people do. One, as I said, is to manage the budget. If they can't afford for that property to become more expensive, for example, or again, if it's something on a regular amount, they know how much to budget. Even like myself, I get paid a salary every month. I have to convert that. And with the exchange rate movements, I mean, on the smaller sums, it's smaller amounts, but we're still talking differences of a few hundred euros difference, which, that can go a long way.
Yes,
That's the
absolutely.
money that you're living on, and that can be quite challenging for some people. And it's just, how can we help manage that? Because you're coming to, like myself, live in Portugal. This is our life now. We want to live here. The benefits of living here are fantastic. But yes, you will need to move your money, and how can we manage that?
Very good. Okay, so pretty much it's all the same apart from picking a preferential rate and locking it in time, if you like, preserving the rate for you. All the other parts of it, the mechanisms for making the call, changing the money, are exactly the same as they would be with the spot deal.
Yeah, so the differences are, so if we talk about, for example, say we give it, there's two examples. One is obviously larger transfers and one is a smaller. So we talk about doing a larger transfer. So say it's a property purchase that you're doing, or it's the golden visa, for example. So say you wanted to lock the rate today for a completion in 12 weeks time. So today you would come to us, we would lock that rate in. We do need 10% deposit. It's not a cost or a charge. It just locks in the rate of exchange, and then you pay the remaining 90% when you actually need the money.
Right. Okay. Very
And the
good.
full amount will go out at that point.
Yes.
So there's a couple of things within that. One is that, yes, you are locked into the exchange rate, regardless of rate fluctuations. If it
Yes.
goes in your favor or against you in that time, you're still locked into this rate. So again, it's going back to understanding what money have you got available, risk appetite, that sort of thing, as to whether this is the right contract for you.
Hmm.
But again, so often people do it for peace of mind. We lock the rate in, 10% deposit, not a cost or a charge. You pay the remaining 90% when you need it, but you've locked into that rate. So it's that sort of peace of mind. A lot of clients, I've had clients that were buying and they paid half just before the completion of the beginning works of their property, and then they pay the final amount when the property's complete. So I think it's going to be another 6 months time. So
Mm.
they're going to do a forward contract because they just want peace of mind that the rates drop. They don't want it to go any further. But they were talking to me saying, well, it's great because in that 6 months, yes, we've locked the rate, we've got that peace of mind, we know that's what it's going to cost us. And in the meantime, that 90%, we're going to hold in our higher interest earning account in the US. So we're earning good interest on that 90%. So
Yes.
often that's something to think about, is that you want to take advantage of the rate, perhaps. You don't want to commit and buy all the euros at once, which you can. You have that complete option with us. All the money's safe that we hold on account for you. But you can actually do it with a forward we only need 10%. So the 90% can be still held in your higher earning interest account somewhere, if that's
Well,
where you
it's a
have it.
contract after all, yes. So you're locked into that, and you're securing the rate. Is this all done over the phone or via email? How does it work?
It's over the telephone.
Right,
So we
okay.
talk, we can, I mean, obviously I do encourage the team that if you want to meet your dealer, you can do a Zoom or a, you know, a WhatsApp video or a call,
Mhm.
you know, to see who you're speaking to and build up that relationship. But ultimately, any transactions that are done over the telephone, they're on recorded telephone lines because you're entering into a contract. So it's there to protect both of us that this is
Yep.
a deal that you're entering into when you buy currency through us.
Very good. Okay. Yeah. Laurie's saying working with Steve. You see, these are the first name terms we're talking about to get an account set up. And David straight in with, yes, I work with Steve and he has been so great. So that's the Spartan FX team that we're talking about here. Sarah, have you got some illustrations or case studies to show how people have benefited from doing this?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, I've got an example for the largest sum. So as a sort of two way of doing it. One, if say a client was buying a property for 500,000 euros, and they were looking to put a deposit down early February 2025.
Mm-hmm.
They put 50,000 euros. That's how much they'd have to pay a deposit. Now the rate then was 1.0211. So that would have been about 51,000 US dollars. That's how much the deposit would have cost. Then completion 12 weeks time, 450,000 euros they'd have to pay. So the rate then was 113.31. So that would have been, call it 510,000 US dollars. So the total cost, if you split it with a deposit and then completion, would have been 560,950 US dollars. Now, if you've done a forward contract, you would have locked the rate in at the 1.0211, and the total cost would have been 510,555 US dollars. So the difference, the saving would have been 50,400 US
Significant, isn't
dollars.
it? That's your car. That's your car
Exactly.
potentially here in
Exactly.
Portugal.
So again, I know hindsight is an easy thing to say. Well, you know, you can see that now, but this is a reality of what could have happened.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the rates, they are quite volatile. And where we're looking at the moment, sort of selling US dollars and buying euros, the euro US dollar rate, we're kind of really around sort of 116 levels. Now they are talking about whether we could see 118. And if we do reach 118, there is scope for it to go to 120. We talk in technical terms about support and resistance. And what that means is when it hits certain levels, then there's scope for it to break through that and then go higher or lower. So
Mhm.
again, if we see it sort of 115, we may see lows of 114. So
Yeah.
again, it's sort of, these are the sort of things that we're looking at, is we're looking at historic trends. What's really difficult is that what moves the market usually, or what usually markets are looking at, is obviously data, historic trends, support and resistance levels. But obviously, unfortunately, at the moment, we've got a lot of things that are very unpredictable, and it's very hard for the markets to predict what's going to happen, especially with Trump and the tariffs and how different countries are retaliating to that and counteracting them. But also then the knock-on effect, we might not see it now, but we might more see it in the medium to short to long term around who pays for the tariffs. Ultimately will be consumers. You know, that if as a business you're paying more for the products that you're buying than you sell on to your customer, you either absorb that fee and you make less profit, or you pass that on to your consumer. And ultimately there is a level of, they'll have to pass some of it on to their consumer because they can't maybe absorb it all. So
Yeah.
again, it may actually impact Americans slightly more because things will become potentially more expensive as well. So again, there may be more scope for us to see the US dollar weaken, and that they may be in a worse situation. And also, obviously, Trump's pushing for the Fed to reduce interest rates as well. There's a lot of
Yes.
pressure on that.
Right. And we
Again,
don't know, do we? We don't know which way it's going, but this is one way of giving yourself some level of control over the situation. If not a crystal ball, then just a way of stabilizing things so you know what's going on and you can budget accordingly. On that note, David asking, so there's no protection if the rates drop. I mean, basically, you've signed a contract, you've got the rate. You're not being penalized or punished. You've got that rate, haven't you? If the market changes, I guess that's what David's talking about. You lose out, but you're weighing
well,
up, aren't you, security versus that speculation?
yes. So obviously, if you're locked into a rate and it moves against you within that time, then obviously, great, you're in a great position. You've locked the rate, you've secured that, and it's not going to cost you anymore, even if the market moves against you. If the
Yeah.
market moves in your favor in that time, and yes, you're locked into the rate. Yes, you are locked into that rate of exchange. You can't
Yeah.
move to the higher rate. And
Yes.
essentially, I suppose you could say that there's a potential loss there to a certain degree. Again, that's why it's really useful to have a conversation with you and really understand you and your situation around, what money do you have available? What is your situation? What does that look like?
Yeah.
If it's a case of you're in a good financial position and you just want to monitor the rates, we can do that as well. We can help monitor it regularly for you. The other thing I would say is that, open an account with us. It's completely free. There's no obligation to use us, but it puts you in a position that if there's market movements, you're ready to act if you need to. Because there's nothing worse than something happens, whether it's moves in your favor. What we're seeing is sometimes odd spikes, and maybe they're not as big as you would like, but they're better than what the market is at the moment. Jump on
Mm.
that. That's
Yeah.
the sort of thing, but it only stays there for not very long. So again, you might have to act very quickly, and at least it puts you in that position to do that.
Yeah.
Again, knowing your situation, we've had clients who are buying a property, I think Jerry told me this situation he's seen with a client where, they budgeted for a house and a car. The exchange rate moved. They hadn't spoken to us. They'd come to Jerry later and they couldn't afford the car because
Yes.
the rate moved.
Well, that's what I was
Or
going to ask you. If it goes against you in that way, it can be quite significant. And if it's not a house and car, it might be the house you wanted. You might not be able to afford after all, with significant sums like that. So thank you for addressing that. David, happy with that. Thanks for answering my question. I will open an account already. By the way, these are Expats Portugal premium members who are here on the call with us tonight and able to ask questions. So for the best access to the experts, become an Expats Portugal premium member or sign up individually for the webinars. And you can do that at expatsportugal.com. There was a question about how far in advance and other questions coming in about the sort of technicalities of this. So we will focus on those. But yeah, that first thing, how far in advance can you do this, Sarah?
you can do it up to 2 years.
Right, 2 years. Okay. All right, fair enough. And just want to, there are no such thing as silly questions, by the way. I often say this, but if it's something you're not clear about, just ask it and we'll make sure it gets to Sarah tonight. Okay, we've got, yes, there are alternatives. Of course, there are. There are many ways of changing money, and we'll focus on the benefits of working with Spartan Effects this evening. And clearly, one of the top reasons is that personal service and being able to speak to a broker, which you're not going to get with every kind of service. David asking, different David, can you pay the 90% overtime, or is it a lump sum? I guess it's according to the contract, isn't it?
Well, it depends what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, for example, if property, for example, you've got a specific date, then I mean, you can be paying us monthly, and because we can hold money on account for you, whether it
Yeah.
be in any currency. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the euro. It could be in any currency. So yes, if you feel that that's easier for you to budget, you can just keep moving the money into our account. Sorry,
Mhm.
into your account. You have a Spartan FX account in your name, so you can move the money into your account at any time. So it doesn't have, yeah, you're right, it doesn't have to be on the completion of the contract. Most people tend to do that, but you can do it beforehand. Or
Yeah.
say you're getting money from a sale of a house in the US, we can accept funds from the lawyer straight to us, and we can hold those funds, and maybe that's going towards other payments. So yes, you can still move the money in.
Okay.
I think that the other thing about a forward contract, which is good, which I why I wanted to come on and talk about it a bit more, is that talking about smaller regular payments, because really a minimum for a contract is probably around, call it about 13,000 US dollars.
Right.
Really roughly is the
Yes.
minimum to do a forward contract, really, to make it worthwhile and to really see sort of a difference on the amounts that you're transferring.
Yes.
So if you're talking about a pension or a salary or something that you're getting on a regular basis, so say it were, 2,500 US dollars a month, what we can do is over 12 months, that's 30,000. So that's the amount we're focusing on, not the 2,500. So over 12 months, we can actually lock the rate for 30,000. So what we would do is we would say, right, today you would tell us what date you need the money, when you want to start it. You'd set up a regular payment to us of the 2,500 US dollars a month. We need 1 month upfront deposit, again, not a cost or a charge. You pay us that upfront, then we start the contract, and then each month you pay us 2,500 euros, comes into your Spartan FX account. We exchange it into euros at the rate you've agreed today, for example, and we continue that contract, say, for 12 months. Now, at the end of the 12 months, the last month, if you choose to end it, the deposit we have on account will then be used as your last month, or you can start a new contract and
Okay.
just use that as the deposit, and we
Yeah.
carry on. So
And just
again, it's
ready
a
again.
way of actually managing the smaller transfers each month, because actually we're not focusing on 2,500, we're focusing on, in this case, in this example, 30,000, which is over 12 months. So again, that might be a way of just making sure you know how much you're getting each month.
Yes, very good. Thank you. And Astrid, thanks very much for the illustrations. For people who like to see it visually, there are some graphics, sort of infographic style, to help illustrate the points that are being made this evening. On that matter of contracts and rates, then, thank you, Diana, for this question. How is the locked-in rate set? Is it the rate on the date of entering the forward transaction, or can a rate be negotiated? I think Diana fancies her chances of negotiating a little bit with the team.
Well, I think that there's two things. Obviously, there's the rate. So say you were doing it today, there is the rate,
Yes.
interbank rate, which is
Yeah.
the wholesale rate that banks us that we're buying at. So you can't get better than that,
Yes.
basically.
Okay.
So
You can't make an offer.
we can't make an offer and say, well, I want this rate. No, I mean, what
Yes.
we can do is we can do orders where we can watch for specific rates. So if you have a rate in mind, we can say, okay, we can either watch for that rate or we can set a specific order. So as soon as it hits that rate, we automatically buy for you. So we can do things like that. But again, it's having that conversation with you and to understand, is it realistic as well within your timeframes?
Mm-hmm.
Because, for myself, sterling euro, I'd like it to be over 120, and that's not happening. So in a short, in a short period of time, at least. So what's realistic in your timeframes? If you're, again, what does that look like? We have the conversation, is it realistic? Because you can say you want, parity, you could be waiting a long time for that. So actually there's not much point in, you could be waiting a long time. So again, it's having the realistic conversations about what could be realistic. Yes, we can watch out for the rates of exchange. So it's not quite a negotiation, but it's monitoring the rate for you. But ultimately, what we do is
Yes.
give competitive rates of exchange, and that's the rate we'll offer you. And
Yeah.
then you decide whether you want to do it today. But
And that's
again,
an
we
important
can
note
have
as well,
those
isn't it? If you're
conversations.
looking for a rate, you can bring that to the attention of your broker and they'll stay in touch with you about that. That's another great part of the service here. I hope that answers your question there, Diana. And yeah, just to reiterate, just to sort of dig deeper into this, is if it's possible to buy forward for 2 years, you pay the deposit and then your circumstances change and you can no longer go forward with the deal, asked Denise, can you withdraw and get your 10% deposit back? That's the whole point of the contract, really, isn't it? You're locked into it.
Yes, you're locked into it, but if you have to come out of it for any reason, whether you can't afford it or the property falls through and you're no longer buying, what happens is that we sell the euros back to the market, and then if there's a loss, we have to take that out of the deposit.
Yeah, there you go.
Because ultimately what we're doing is we're buying all the euros up front. That's why we
Right.
ask for a deposit as a security for us, because we're buying all the euros at the rate that you want, but we're saying we'll do it if you just pay a deposit, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, no, it
the risk is
absolutely does.
obviously
Yeah,
then
so
on us.
all
So
is not
we'll,
lost. It
yes,
literally.
so we can sell the contract back. And as I said, if there is a loss, we would have to take that out of
There you
the
go. Well, that was better than I was expecting there. So there you go, Denise. Thanks for asking that question. Alex, what are the additional costs? This is a great question. What are the additional costs with signing the contract? Are there any, Sarah?
no,
No, there you go.
no.
I thought that was going to be the answer, but thank you for asking, Alexander, on that. Okay, brilliant. Any other sort of misconceptions or illustrations that will be useful? Because this is a new concept to people, isn't it? The whole idea of doing this, and it has many attractive points. Are there any other things that we should know about?
I
Other
think the
downsides or
reason
difficulties?
people don't know about it is because traditionally, certainly with the banks, for example, it's only offered usually to businesses,
Okay.
generally, and the bank won't offer you this, and the online providers won't offer you this. It's not offered to, usually to private clients.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about sort of when I talk about the service that we're offering, is that yes, it's the rate on the day we can offer you against your bank, but actually it's the management of the exchange rates. This is where you're sort of seeing the difference. And I think traditionally, years ago, these sort of services were really tailored and catered for businesses. But now private individuals are becoming more international. This is something that's more needed for individuals. And actually people are doing, all right, you're not doing millions and billions like some of the corporate companies, but people are still doing enough, money that this still makes a difference. And a forward contract is a probably newer concept for a private client, but it isn't something that usually is offered through your bank for
Okay.
individuals.
However, yeah, if somebody in the United States was to go into their provincial bank and say two things, I'd like you to take a note of my IBAN number. That would get a quizzical look, very likely. And also this thing about I'd like a forward contract. They probably wouldn't know about that in domestic banking, presumably. No.
No, a lot of the, customers that we see that speak to their local branch in the US, they've never made an international transfer before. They don't know what an IBAN number is. Often
Yeah.
they put us on the phone to the bank teller to help them how to make the payment, things like that. It's very interesting. And some banks won't make international payments.
No, okay. All right. Thank you for that. And it's okay to ask what is an IBAN number in the chat tonight as well. And Sarah will explain for you. What are the additional costs with signing the contract was the question Alexander asked, but missed the answer. An aircraft was flying overhead. And it was a very short answer. And the answer was no, Alex. Okay, just to be clear about that, it was a no.
No, I mean, essentially what we're offering is a solution to moving your money, in this instance, to Portugal.
Yeah.
So it's looking at what rate you're being offered, say against your bank or the provider, making sure that you're getting the best rate that you can on the day, but also managing the exchange rate. And how do we do that? We
Yeah.
look at, we have clients that buy euros in advance. They buy a quarter or a half of what they need to spread that risk. So then the average of what they're buying at is a good rate. We do the forward contracts. We do it for property. Again, it's quite good for the regular payments. I've seen it over the years, when I first started in this, a lot of people buying holiday homes and mortgages. And again, at least they know exactly how much it's going to cost. And also about getting your money there on time so that there's no penalties if you miss the deadline, things like that, managing the process of moving money. And although, yes, we are moving along with technology, faster payments, all this sort of stuff, unfortunately we're still dealing with a banking system that is a little bit archaic, especially in countries,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
compliance and anti-money laundering is probably, someone said to me, what do you see as a barrier? I see that that's a barrier to progress, because you've got different licensing that you need, or regulations in different countries, and the compliance is often something that can hold up payments, which we try and help mitigate as well.
Yes, if you ever feel like you need a little bit of nostalgia in your life, just look at banking systems, right? It's incredible,
Yeah.
isn't it? We live in the age of AI where we're being subjected to changes every day with the different things we do. You go to your bank and it's just the same as 1950, basically. Anyway, I suspect that will change at some point. Right. Diana's thanking you. These are great services, especially for those of us who aren't multi or mega millionaires. We know there's a few secret billionaires among you tonight, and Sarah will be hanging out after the recording is finished tonight. There'll be a chance to ask if you don't feel like asking a question that will be asked in the public seminar webinar here. You can ask that of Sarah after we've concluded with the recording. And going back to Diana's comment there, mega millionaires, you did mention the minimum amount. Is there a maximum amount for the secret billionaires watching tonight?
No.
No, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a
But
good luck.
that's why it's good to talk about this, because
Yes.
yes, traditionally we've talked about larger sums like your property and your golden visa, but the reality is, as I said, this is still useful for your smaller transfers.
Yeah.
And looking how we manage it, and it's very difficult. I mean, as I said, I'm in the same boat myself. I'm getting a salary every month. It is difficult to think about how we do this for, you know, the rest of our time here. Unfortunately, I can't fix the rate for 10 or 20 years or more.
Yeah.
or
Right.
or manage
Absolutely.
that. It is difficult. So
Yes.
again, it's, no one's got a crystal ball. It is difficult to manage, but it's just, having the conversation and keeping that relationship so that we can try and work together and try and help manage this for you living here and getting the most you can for your money.
Okay. If anybody does want to test Spartan FX's maximum amount of exchange, I'm sure Steve will be very happy to take that call tonight, even if he's having dinner. Right. Will there be any interactions with cryptocurrency? I mean, you're a crypto-free zone, basically. You deal with the known currencies of the world, right? The main currencies of the world.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, who knows what that look like in the future, but at the moment, yes, because of the way that the service is regulated and the compliance and everything like that we can't deal with crypto,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay. Tom, you'll have to just answer one of the many WhatsApp messages you no doubt get with people offering to help with cryptocurrency. Well, I get them anyway. Okay. John, thank you for this. John G, I may have misunderstood previous info I received, but I have heard an expat will have lower taxes for transferring or keeping your accounts less than $10,000. Oh, this is the kind of money laundering law, isn't it? And conventions that are applied and that it can be quite inconvenient. I'm going to rent the first year, so wondering if forward contract would even benefit me. You mentioned it works with $12,000 to $15,000. So will taxes be higher with the account? Can you answer that? Is that more of a sort of Pedro Franco?
More of a Pedro Franco, but I've said it a number of times before. We don't work in silo because we understand that there's challenges or there's more to money. We can work in conjunction with whoever we need to. So obviously, with your permission and obviously from GDPR, but where I've seen it is that, we can work alongside if we need to with your tax specialist, with your financial advisor, for example, Henry from Holborn. We've
Mhm.
had conversations, client, Henry, Steve, that sort of thing, or your buyer's agent, a real estate agent. We can be all, and the lawyer, all looped in together. We can provide any information we need. We've got extra tracking on the payments so they know when it's in like the seller's account, for example. If you've got questions, we don't report to anybody, but if you need information to fill in the F bar, we can give as much information as you need for that. So again, we can work in conjunction with the other specialists if you need us to.
There you go, John. I hope that. Okay, thumbs up from John. That's good to see. Laurie's getting quite excited here. If I understand correctly, you could have multiple forward contracts. How about that? Could you have a little brace of these things?
Well, you could. It
Yes.
depends what
Okay.
you need to do. I mean, ultimately, you don't necessarily need to have multiple. You can have one for a certain amount, and there's ways around drawing down what you need as well.
Mm,
It can get slightly more complex, but you can, if you need to, say, I don't know, you added up, you needed for regular payment, you needed for a property, or you need it for this. What's the total amount? Fix it for that, and then we can just do something. Yeah, it depends. again, it's
So
having
yes,
a conversation. It's
technically
quite,
yes,
there's
Lauren.
still flexibility within in that to a certain degree as to, dates and when you need money and how that works.
We've got Denise worrying about how you make money. We'll cover that after we've concluded the recording, Denise. We'll come back to that. She's worried about you with these contracts and Spartan. They'll be all right. They'll be okay. But we could go into the specifics of that afterwards, Denise. Is there a fixed percentage over the published rate that Spartan charges for exchanges? A fixed percentage? I guess it is your specific business
Well,
rate,
we
isn't
can.
it?
I suppose we can answer this question. Basically, how do we make money? We make money.
Yes.
We do make money in the same way as the bank. It's between what we buy, what we sell. How I explain the easiest way is just like most companies is that you buy a wholesale price, which is what they call the interbank. So the likes of the banks, us, financial institutions, we get access to because of the liquidity. We can get access to interbank rates. So again, it's like, for example, a table, I'll buy a wholesale price, and then I'll sell it to you at essentially a retail price. So it's the gap between the two. That's where we're
Yep.
making our money, same way as the bank. It's just we charge a lot less for that.
Yep, and the added value
Volume.
of the service, of
Yeah.
course. Excellent. So there you go, Denise, and thank you for asking that question there as well. I'm not sure who that was, but yeah, there's an interesting point coming in from Diana. Spartan FX is a valuable service for avoiding the terrible fees that banks charge in the US. David saying my bank charges me $25 for every transfer I make to Spartan. Yeah, this goes on, doesn't it? And yes, David F, that was you asking the question about the rates and percentages. So thank you for that as well. Okay, Sarah, anything else that I've neglected to ask you that people need to know about? I do have a couple of questions that have come in from premium members who can't be here tonight, and that's another service we offer to premium members. If you can't be on the call, we'll ask the questions on your behalf, and we'll close with your top tips and more mechanics of how to do this. But is there anything else significant that should be shared at this point about how this works?
No, I just think ultimately all of it is just, if anyone takes it away, just think about this more, because a lot of people, I know it's forefront a little bit more now because of the movements in the exchange rates, but often
Mm,
I speak to numerous clients and people, and it is left to the last minute. And if you leave it to the last minute, you've got limited options. So say, for example, you need to make a payment next week, you're limited to where the rate is right now.
okay.
That's it. You've got no choice because you need to make that payment. So again, if you can think about it in advance, it just opens up more options, and it may be within that you might be able to save some money if you give it a little bit more. And also, again, don't leave it to the last minute as well, because
Yes.
that makes things so much more stressful. And
Yeah.
we talked about the banking systems. Although we move money very quickly, there's still, the beneficiary bank, there still could be things out of our control, out of your control, that you just don't want that added stress if it takes a bit longer for
Yeah,
you.
start the relationship early. I don't know if it's like this in the US, but in the UK, back in the day, when you were going on holiday, you'd go to the Bureau de Change on the morning of your holiday or the day before, wouldn't you? And get your money to spend on holiday. Don't do that when you're moving country. Okay. Questions from premium members, and then we'll conclude with the last couple of big questions for you, Sarah. Is there a better brokerage house in the USA to use for money transfers? Schwab, Fidelity, or Vanguard, for example. What is the intermediary bank you would use, and can you link foreign exchange update directly to your US bank? From Ray. Thank you, Ray, for that.
Okay, I mean, essentially, we're like an intermediary bank. So the account that you would have with us is very similar to a bank. It's in bank account, it's in your name. All the money's protected. So if anything should happen to us as a company, you get all your money returned. So even if you've got money on account with us, even if you're, mega rich, and you've got $1 million with us, all the money's protected, and you get all that money back. So essentially, that's how we sort of act as an intermediary between your bank and then, well, a bank, whether it be your lawyer's bank transferring money to us, or your bank, and then again to your bank here in Portugal, or to a lawyer's account or a seller's account. That's how essentially we work. The other thing really is having the conversations with you to understand who you're actually banking with, because that is a good question. We see a very mixed experiences for different banks.
Yes.
But again, looking at what a lot of brokerage accounts won't do international payments. So often clients move the money from their brokerage account into their checking account. I had a client actually last week who's buying a property here, and they were just telling me they've moved their money from their brokerage account and it should be clearing in their checking account any day soon, and then
Okay.
they can move the money.
All right.
Um,
Good.
and again, yes, some banks are easier to work with than others in the States, probably
Yes.
for the reasons we talked about before about the systems that they've got in place.
Yeah, and members, Expats Portugal members can compare notes on the forum. I think about those. That'll be a really good place to share your experience of particular bank brands over there. That's for Ray. For Ian.
Sorry, just going back
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
I think probably one of the best ones that we've seen is Schwab. We help clients you have to fill in an international transfer form, and we help clients fill that in as well, and then they can use us to transfer the funds from Charles Schwab to us and then on. But they're probably one of the better banks to work with.
Schwab then. Okay, for you, Ray. Thanks, David, for this. David F. Before I had an account in Portugal, Spartan made payments to my new landlord on my behalf. The money sat in my Spartan account, so that's good to know as well. That's possible. Ian, I am happy as a Spartan FX client as we get ready to move, but I never really thought about forward contracts. In spring of 26, it will be convenient to set up regular monthly deposits to our Portuguese bank account to demonstrate regular, reliable income. What income in inverted commas? What is the cost fee for setting up the forward contract? I think we've already dealt with this, haven't we? Say if we wanted to move 70,000 over a year in monthly installments.
So again, there's not a cost, but we will require, as I said, a deposit of some
7%
description.
deposit. Yep. Okay.
Whether it be the 10% or it be the monthly amounts, we do 1 month in advance. Again, as I said, it's not a cost or a charge. It will be paid out if, for example, it's a forward for a property, all the money goes out when you pay the 90%, or if it's going to be something that's regular payments, the last month we can pay out as the deposit. So it's not a cost or a charge.
Very
Again,
good.
it's just the protection that for us because we buy all the euros in advance.
Okay, and finally, then, last two questions for you. And if I have missed anything in the chat here tonight on Zoom with the Expats Portugal Premium members, don't worry, we'll get a chance to put those to Sarah as soon as we finish recording tonight for YouTube. Documents, information. What specific bits and pieces do people need to do this? I mean, maybe you want to answer this in relation to opening an account in the first place, but then what else might be needed for a forward contract?
There's nothing specific for the forward contract that we don't ask for for any contract that you're doing with us. The sort of standard, questions and documents that we collect depending on what you're doing. And really it's around, the money laundering, anti-money laundering regulations. It's around, proof of the source of the funds and what's the reason for the transaction. So depending on sort of the amounts and what you're looking to do is whether we will need proof of that or not. And again, it's those sort of conversations because often what can happen is that a beneficiary bank receives a payment and they ask more questions. Now, if they're then communicating with your bank in the US, for example, that's a very slow, process. So again, the bank would come to us and we'd be already ready with all the information that they need around the transaction. So really, it's just understanding that what they want to see is that you're not laundering money, essentially.
Very
But
good.
this type of information would be collected anyway for your requirement, whether you do a spot, which is buy now, pay now, or you do a forward where you're locking the rate for a future payment. It doesn't make any difference.
Very good. Okay. Even Expats Portugal old timers learn something on these webinars. I didn't know we could use Schwab for this. I keep an account there for their free international ATM card. Is it a straightforward wire from Schwab to Spartan FX?
Yes.
There you go. How about that? We all learn something. However long we've been listening to the webinars and members of Expats Portugal. So a nice bit of value for an old timer there. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean that rudely. I won't say your name just in case. Okay, finally then, and from your angle, as somebody who's made the move yourself, Sarah, you may have some personal experience here in moving to Portugal yourself. Top piece of advice, if you will, for expats people becoming expats and moving here to Portugal. Top advice.
Gosh, that's a tough one. Top advice.
Don't leave it too late was one of them, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Don't leave it too late.
Yes,
Get the
don't
post, get
leave
the
it
ball
too late.
rolling.
Don't leave it too late. And, I speak to a number of people that are here, and they often say that the things that they wish they'd looked into more is money transfer and taxes. That's
Mhm.
generally what they say. And I would say use experts. I use a lot of the dream team, and, it could be slightly biased because I'm part of the dream team, but I've used them myself.
Yes.
And it was definitely worth it. It's really is stressful, unfortunately, because although there's not really a language barrier here, when it comes to something like that, there is, because the documents are in Portuguese, they need to be translated. You need to make sure you've got all of it's. So, I mean, I really wanted to move here and I really wanted the visa, and I didn't want to risk me doing something wrong and
Yeah.
not having the right documentation or not doing something properly. Even just having the lawyer sat with me at my AIMA appointment, I'm like, it was just a mess. So it's just nice having someone to reassure you. We sat down, she spoke Portuguese to the woman that worked there. I didn't say a word, but she obviously had a bit of a rapport with her, which I think the woman appreciated. And they chatted, they did the doc, and then she was like, "That's it," and I was like, "Oh,
That's it.
wonderful."
So
So
work with the dream team. Talking of
yeah, it
dream
was
team,
just
will be back
having that
in
support was
September.
wonderful. And at least I knew that obviously, it's out of their control. It's whether, AIMA or the government will approve what I've sent in, but the work that they did, I could be reassured that it was correct. And
I think that's a really good testimonial for the dream team, because like when people work in a biscuit factory, they never eat another biscuit again. You've worked with the dream team and very happy to be part of it and work with those fellow professionals as
well,
well.
what I would say is that I was sat on these dream team shows for a good few years before I decided to move. And
Yes.
in fact, I blame you all really, because you planted the seed and that's why I'm here.
It
But
was the dream team
I
work
was
on it.
listening and I
Yeah.
thought, because I'm on these shows every week, that I would know more than I did. And I
Yeah.
did have a good understanding. And I thought,
Yes.
maybe I can probably do this a bit more myself. No, it's amazing. There's so much more than really what is being taught, because it's very difficult, because everybody's situation is different. And yes, we give information, but it's just like that. You maybe miss something,
Yeah.
or it's not relevant for you at that specific time. So maybe you
Yes.
don't take that in, and the things like that. And also like timelines and stuff like that. It's very difficult sometimes to match that up with sometimes the information that you're given. And that's not a criticism of the dream team. It's just because there's so much information to tell and it's so helpful.
Yep.
But again, then going off and doing it yourself, you still need that guidance, I think.
Absolutely. Dream Team sessions will be back in September. And if you're wondering what on earth and who we're talking about, check them out at expatsportugal.com. And if you become a member there, you can join these webinars and you'll get discounts on the services that Sarah's been talking about. Old timer, says Tom Wallace, I still have a Skudos. I'm afraid there's nothing we can do about that. They are nice antiques now. We can't change those for Tom, can we? Thanks, Sarah. Thank you so much. Keep enjoying your birthday celebrations in this week of your birthday. Thanks for taking the time out to be with us this evening. You'll stick around for a little bit longer, I hope, to chat with the Expats Portugal Premium members. But for the time being, thank you very much indeed.
No problem.
Looking for a place to call your own, where the sun shines bright and the seeds are sown. Portugal, it's the place to be. Join the community.